third graders. Remember this color wheel from our last lesson? I love the color wheel because there's so much we can learn from it. Last time we learned about primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. But there's other things we can learn from the color wheel as well. And today, one of those things that we can learn is something called complementary colors. That means colors that are opposites. And how do we know they're opposites? Well, they are opposites on the color wheel. For example, here's yellow. And if I go directly opposite, I get to purple. Yellow and purple are complementary or opposite colors. And here's red. And if I go directly opposite on the color wheel, I get to my green. Red and green are complementary colors. And if I go to the blue and go directly opposite, I get to orange. And blue and orange are complementary colors. It works for all the colors on the color wheel. For example, if I go to the yellow-green, and then I go directly opposite, I get to the red-violet or red-purple. Let's try another one. If I go to the yellow-orange and go directly opposite, the complementary color or opposite color here is called blue-purple or blue-violet. And I can do that with all the colors. In fact, there are colors in between these colors that would have opposites or complementary colors if I could make a color wheel with all the colors. Well, it's almost impossible since there's an infinite number of colors that go through the whole spectrum of color, right? Anyway, that's the interesting part about the color wheel. But today we're going to focus on just a few of those complementary colors, because those are the colors I have for you with our paper. Red and green, they're opposites. Blue and orange, complementary, opposites. And yellow and purple are complementary and opposites. So, here's what I gave you. You have a piece of white paper like this, and today we need to use it in the horizontal position. So I'm just going to lay it on my workspace right there in the horizontal, the long position. Then you have a set of little colored squares. Now, those of you working at home are going to have more squares than the students at school. And the reason for that is I gave the teachers at school some extra sets so that if somebody makes a mistake, there's some extra squares there. But since you at home can't just ask your teacher to give you one, I gave you a few extra for each of you. But here's what I want you to do now. Take your first color, which in my case is orange, and put 2 squares of orange up there at the top of your workspace above your paper. Put 2 more squares of orange right underneath, like that. If you have other orange squares, just put them off to the side. And then take your next color, 2 squares there, and 1, 2 squares right underneath. And you're going to go right ahead and do this with each of the colors. I'm making these rows of colors, and I really want you to follow directions on this. Some people go, I'll make up and down row or whatever, but it's better if your rows are up on top of your workspace so that you're not having to worry about bumping them off in the middle of your work time. So go ahead, and I've got some more colors here. Okay, oh, where's my other red? There it is. There, now I have 1 row here across and 1 row here across with all the colors. There's 2 squares of each color here and 2 squares of each color here. Got it? Okay, great. Now we're ready to work. I'm going to show you a sample of what the finished product of our work will look like. Now yours might look completely different, but this is a type of what we're going to do. This is one that I made. And we're going to start out by doing a color puzzle. Notice that there's a color on the bottom, a background color to each of these designs, right? So we're not going to worry about the design part yet. We're just going to worry about the background colors to start, and I'm going to put it away so you can't even copy mine, because there are many ways to solve this puzzle, and I don't want you just to copy my puzzle. So here's the puzzle. Are you ready? I want you to use just one row of these squares, 2 of each color, and make an arrangement on your paper so that you use 2 squares of each color, but that you never use the same color down or across. So I cannot put this orange here, then I would have 2 oranges in the same row. And I cannot use an orange here, then I would have 2 oranges in the same row. And now that I have a blue here, I can't put any blues there either. I'm going to just go ahead and put, I don't know if I want purple there though. Does that look good? I don't know. I think I'd rather have a yellow there. So I'm just trying one way, and I'll just show you. Then I'm going to mix it all up because there's so many ways to do this. Okay, I cannot use yellow here, and this is already used up. So I'm just going to do that. Can I put a blue over here? Yeah. I could put an orange here because there's no orange here or here. And you see what I mean? As you go on, you're going to want to make sure, and then you want it to look nice too, is the other thing, how you like it. What am I missing? What am I missing? Purple. Now, have I solved it? You can check to make sure none of the same colors are going across and none of the same colors are up and down. So I'm going to take those away because that is only one way to solve the puzzle. Now you go ahead and you solve the puzzle. Okay, if you have finished solving your puzzle, which I expect that to take a few minutes for each person to do, maybe about 10 minutes per person. Try to have somebody check it. Maybe another student who's nearby, but most likely an adult, to check it and make sure that you don't have a repetition of color. Now, let me lay a few of my colors out again. Because when you have them laid out, don't take them off. Do not take them off. Let me see if I can quickly do the puzzle again. I got to be careful how I do this, don't I? Okay, did I do the puzzle right? Let me see. Okay, I think I did. Now, you know, I had to cut each of these squares on a paper cutter by hand, and I know, I'm sorry, they are not perfect. So this might make it a little bit harder for you, but you should be able to do it. So what I want you to do is start gluing, but not just any old place. Keep all your squares there. Don't pull them off and put them in piles. Just leave them all right there. Because what I want you to do is glue it in a certain way. Start with a square in the upper corner. Turn it over. I have this scratch paper here so that I have something to glue on so I don't get it on my table. And the way I glue is to glue all around the edges, and then you can put an X in it and kind of do the center like that. But you want the edges to be tight. Now line it up as best you can with the corner of the paper. Move the other ones out of the way slightly. Oops. Let some white show there. Okay, as much as you can, get it on there so no white shows. Now, you don't want to go over and glue down over here somewhere, because what we want is for the next square to fit up tightly against that square with no white showing. Now, since these aren't perfect, sorry, I'm not perfect, but I did my best. When I glue it, I've got to come right here and make sure it fits up tightly up against that one. Now, it fits tightly, but notice that it's just slightly shorter there. That could be a problem. On this one, I'm going to want to come and glue it so it's like that. So it's up really tight. And then maybe I go to this one, move them over slightly. And once that's glued down, I'd glue there, and maybe I'd come down here. So you want to always be gluing the next one. If at the end I end up with something like this on the bottom with some white showing on the bottom, or on this side I have a little white showing, that is okay. Okay, there might end up be some white on the edges. That's okay, because we could always trim that at the end. But right now, the main thing is to get them all so that they are glued really tightly together so that there's no white space showing in between. When you finish gluing all your squares, and this is probably the hardest part, is gluing these squares. So when you finish all that, then the really fun part begins, because you still have a row of squares left here if you laid these out right, which means you have 2 of each color left. And what you want to do with those is just cut out some fun designs. So I'm going to just take a square here. And one of the hints I have for you, which you can kind of see on my finished piece, is that if this matters to you, making them all the same, kind of the same approximate size, and having some negative space where we can see the underneath color in between, that kind of makes it a more exciting and more unified looking design. It makes the piece a little bit more fun to look at. So, how did I do that? Well, if I fold my square in half, I can either cut a shape out, and I could cut half a shape. This is kind of like when you cut a snowflake, only we're only folding in half this time. Say I want to do, let's say I want to do a butterfly. I could cut out the outside of one set of wings. And if I open this up, yeah, I'll have a butterfly, right? Like that. But if I fold it back up, don't cut up to the edge. Just cut a few slices out of the middle, but never cut all the way to the edge. Don't cut up to any edges, in fact. See how I left some here, and down here I'd leave some too. And I didn't cut all the way up either. So I can cut a couple of shapes out in the middle, leaving all the edges. And if I do that, and if I open up my butterfly now, that's more interesting. Okay, where am I going to glue this? This is orange. I want to put this on the complementary color only. So if I put it on yellow, no. Orange and yellow are not complementary colors. Where should I put this? Well, I think I know. But if I didn't know, I could go back and look at this part of the video. Orange and blue are complementary colors. That is right. So I've got supposedly have that blue glued down, and then I could glue this on top of the blue one. What would I put on top of the green square? Did you know the answer was red? Bet you did. And what would I put on top of the red square? The answer has to be green. Complementary colors work both ways. Red and green, green and red. Blue and orange, orange and blue. Yellow and purple, purple and yellow. So, yellow with purple on top. Purple with yellow on top. And one more time, I'll let you see this one so you can see how that worked. And in the end, you're going to have your design of complementary colors. I hope you have fun doing this assignment. This is our last video, our last art video of this school year. Oh, I'm going to miss making videos, but I'm hoping that next fall I see you over at Ocean View in person. That would be so much fun. I've missed you so much. So enjoy making your art. And if you want to send me a picture, you can send it here to mernst@ausdk12.org. And just one more time, in case you've forgotten how to do our project, there are all the steps. Okay, keep on making art. Bye.